Ready to explore the latest trends in real estate? What are innovators in building planning for the future? The Ralph Bivens Project digs deep into the minds of key players in the industry and discussions with today's thought leaders. I'm Ralph Bivens. As a journalist who's covered the real estate development industry for decades, I invite you to join me as we probe for new ideas and projects that will be making headlines soon. We love to ask hard questions to interesting people. When you've done over 100,000 interviews, you seem to get enlightening answers. Don't forget to download and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your audio inspiration. You can also watch and subscribe on YouTube or visit realtynewsreport.com. Welcome. This is the Ralph Bivens Project, and we're here today to talk about real estate, and we're going to talk about something you may be wondering. Is this a great time to buy? Is this a great time to sell? What about mortgage rates? What about the prices? Are they going up? Are they going down? And so we're here with Cathy Treviño. She is chair of the Houston Association of Realtors, one of the largest realty associations in the nation and probably the world. So she's got her finger on the major pulse of a lot of different opinions, a lot of different activities. So Cathy, thanks for being here. We're going to do a mid-year, it's kind of a mid-year thing. We're in the middle of 2023 and we still got a lot left for this year. But anyway, how are you feeling? We're halfway through with 23. What are you feeling? What are the members and realtors at HAR? What are they thinking now? How are they dealing with today's marketplace?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Ralph, for having me back on the show. It's always a pleasure, and I'd love to be able to answer some of the questions that I know that a lot of consumers and members are even wanting to know and what's going on with HAR. And so, we can't believe that it's halfway through the year. This year has definitely flown by. And the market has definitely changed when you compare it to this same time last year. And so, what we're seeing is basically the market is starting to more normalize and go back to more of pre-pandemic numbers. And when you really look at that, we actually are surpassing those record-breaking years from 2019 and 2018. So the market is actually thriving fairly well right now. And we're staying very optimistic that it will continue. I think everyone knows and has been very concerned about interest rates and what's happening, with our economy. We have, high inflation and all of these things. But the good thing about all of this is that there's an opportunity for us to be able to basically go back and level our market, because the past 2 years with COVID, it was really just a hyper market. It was not really a true apples to apples type of market. It was very, I would say, superficial almost. And so those were 2 really good years when it came to real estate, because the government had to do something in order to be able to make things happen for the economy. And so they lowered interest rates and they implemented some really good things for renters and buyers. And so a lot of people were able to go in and purchase homes at record-breaking interest rates, at low rates. And
low. I mean, there are a lot of people now. I guess this is a big issue. A lot of people now are sitting there with a 3% mortgage, or maybe even a 2.75% mortgage or something like that. And they're saying, hey, I don't want to sell. I'd rather, if I do that, I have to go. And now I believe Freddie Mac came out with their weekly average yesterday of, I think, 6.8%.
Right.
Which is, more than twice as high as some of these people. They know if they do that, they can't afford a home that's nearly as large or nearly as nice. There's no one, they want to stay put. I think that's a big problem, isn't it?
Well, it is. And I mean, that is something that we're looking at and we're watching. I mean, homeowners are staying in their homes longer for that reason, and rightfully so. I mean, when you have a, 2.8 interest rate, it's hard to be able to sit here and say, well, man, I'm going to go from 2.8 to nearly 7. And prices of homes probably, in that time have increased as well. And so you're looking at, having a double whammy there, and so a lot of sellers are like, well, if I don't have to sell, then I'm going to stay put a little bit longer. So we're seeing that. But the flip side of that is, you always have people who are needing to move, for whatever reason it may be, whether they got a new job and they need a transfer, maybe they're relocating, maybe they're wanting to upsize or downsize. There's all kinds of reasons that people still do need to move. And so we are seeing a lot of activity due to those reasons as well. I think the main thing is that we have to educate both, the consumer, and our agents to make sure that they're prepared to be able to talk about these type of things, because I think a lot of sellers, when you compare, the market from a year ago, even, this same time last year, sellers were used to seeing homes fly off the shelf.
Yeah.
And they were having multiple offers, and prices were continuing to rise, and it was driving up prices and all of those things. We're not in that market anymore. And so I think that's kind of like almost, like a sticker shock almost to sellers, saying, well, how do I move I still need to sell. So I still need to move this property. How can you help me? And so one of the things that we as an association are really trying to, inform our members is to understand your realtor value and to be able to articulate it in a way that you can explain what you're doing and how you're going to do it, and your marketing plan and all of those things. Agents today do have to work a little harder to get the home sold. They have to market the property. They're going to, have to understand that it may take a little bit longer. Homes are sitting on the market just a little bit longer. I think we're sitting at like 45 days versus about 32 or right around 30 days last year. So it's
pretty fast last year. And the year before that too.
exactly.
The big race. Hey, there's a listing. People would run to get it because the inventory of homes for sale was just tiny.
Right. And now we're sitting at 3.1 months of inventory. So we do have more inventory on the ground, and it's more of a almost level playing field for buyers and sellers. It's buyers have a little bit more buying power because of that as well. So even though that they they may be getting a little bit higher interest rates, there's a lot of opportunity for them to be able to really take this opportunity into their advantage, because there's more inventory on the ground. Sellers are able to consider maybe negotiating the sales price or giving a little bit more concession or things like that, because they need to sell. And so it's going back to more of that type of market where we're starting to see buyers can actually negotiate a little bit more on some of the things, where before it was, full price offer, asking above, and it priced a lot.
The people waiting to buy it if you don't want to.
Exactly. And it's a different market. So there's opportunities more for buyers, to be able to come in and negotiate a little bit more. There's also buyer programs that are available for buyers to help them with absorbing some of those high interest costs. There's buy downs that a lot of lenders are offering for buyers to help them to be able to get into the home and to be able to have a more affordable, comfortable rate for the first several years. And then as we are hearing that interest rates will eventually come back down, I don't know if we'll ever see the twos again, but I do believe that the interest rates will come down to a reasonable rate to where maybe they can go in and refinance in a few years. But they're able to get into a home. People are,
you mentioned that the barrier rate. Well, before what is the point, and I think maybe home builders have really studied this a lot too. What is the point of this kind of where we say, I'm not going, the home buyer says, I'm not going above X percent. or was it 5%? Is it 3%, 7%? You know, they have a barrier and they say, I'm not paying, I can't buy a house unless I get below this amount. Do you know what that is?
It varies for every buyer because every buyer's needs are different and what they can qualify is different. And so that's having that conversation with your realtor. And that's why it's so very important to make sure that the buyer, and a seller, hire a realtor that can really give them the proper advice and counsel that they need for their specific situation. Every client situation may be a little bit different. It's also making sure that your client has a good lender, because there's a lot of programs out there that the lenders can actually bring forth for your buyers to be able to put them in a situation where it may not necessarily be like, okay, well, I just can't do it if it's over this interest rate, because there's a lot of other factors that actually go into your payment, and so when you look at it, it may not be just all about interest rate. It's about, what's your tax rate? What's the area, how much is your insurance going to be? Is it in a flood zone? All of those things have an impact in your final down, your payment. And so just because you may have a higher interest rate does not necessarily mean that your payment's going to be higher. If you purchase in an area where the tax rate's higher than maybe a different subdivision, that's something that you may want to look into and find out, like, what are the taxes? Is there a MUD? Things like that you're going to have to be constantly adding, like, okay, well, there's a MUD, that's going to be additional tax rate. Maybe I can move into a community that does not have a MUD, and so therefore my payment won't be as high. I want to look at, flood insurance, and, if I purchase a property in this area, I'm going to have to pay for flood insurance, but if I purchase it over here, I won't. And so that's going to have a factor in your payment. So ultimately, it's finding the right realtor that knows the area and that's going to be able to guide that person into to really try to help them qualify for the monthly payment. And those are things that we all help with, as far as working as a realtor, and then combining it with a lender who can also, maybe even help them qualify into a particular program. There's a lot of programs. HAR recently rolled down the down payment as our DPR program, which is the down payment resource program, where a consumer can, when they're looking at properties for sale, they will have a little DPR logo on there, and if they click it, it will give them a list of all the down payment programs that are available if that house qualifies. And there's a lot of money out there, and so we encourage the consumer to look at those things, because it can make a difference on their bottom line. And ultimately, if they think they can't buy, if they get with the right person and they get the right counseling and they get the right advice, then they a lot of times they're surprised to know that I can purchase a home. And so that's what we're all about, is making sure that we are giving the proper guidance and counsel, and connecting them with the proper lender, and making sure that we're listening to their needs and what is their true goal, and how can we achieve that and help them with that. So there's a lot of issues that come into the back end that we as realtors do to make sure that we're advising them the right way. And that's why we feel that it's so very important to make sure that you hire a realtor with every purchase.
In addition to that, are there any sellers that are saying, okay, I know you're $50,000 short here, but we can help you get there by, you can take out, the seller can give the buyer a loan. Have you ever seen that happen?
We're starting to see more sellers again. We're starting to see seller contributions. We're starting to see a little bit more seller negotiations on price. I think a lot of it just depends on the seller situation as well. And so that, is a conversation that we as listing agents go in, and we try to figure out, how can we help them to be able to move this property and help them get into the next property. So those are conversations also that we have on the sell side. But we are starting to see a little bit more seller contributions on the sell side.
That could help. I know what the home builders are doing, and the home builders say, that they think the break point is right now in the marketplace is 5.5%. 5.5% mortgages are kind of like that's if you can get it there,
Mhm.
then the buyer will go ahead and go through. And so they're doing the builder buy down, or the home builder will pay an amount to the mortgage company, and whatever it takes to knock that mortgage rate down to 5.5%. And of course, home builders are having a great year. Home builders are having a great year. A lot of them, I think D.R. Horton, the biggest builder in the nation, really outstanding results in their most recent quarter. So home builders are doing good, and I think that's one of their tools. Because everybody thought when the rates started jumping back up again, well, I'm going to sell all my home builder stocks. It's a bummer, but they've dealt with it and managed with it and figured out a way to come up with solutions.
Well, and I think home builders right now, we're starting to see a lot more cooperation with home builders. They're working with realtors, they're offering incentives, things like that. I mean, because they also have, inventory that they have to move. And so, it's very important because, that for us to continue to have relationships with the builders, and we do, and because we have a lot of the buyers that we're going to be able to bring them. And so we partner with a lot of builders throughout the community to see what they have. There's a lot more inventory on the ground, and we're bringing buyers to them and working together to be able to make things happen for our buyers. And ultimately, it's a win-win for both the builder and the buyer.
But as you said, prices have gone up a lot home prices have gone up a lot in the last couple of years in most places, and every place really, I think, and mortgage rates are going up. So some people are just saying, whether it's a matter of what they can do or whether what they want to do would be, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to rent a house and just kind of see where the market shakes out and see if rates will come back down or whatever. Or maybe I can't afford it, so we're just going to rent for a while. But tell us a little bit about the rental market going in the Houston area right now. Are homes renting at a rapid pace?
Yes, I mean, we are starting to see that, just like you mentioned, it's another alternative. When a buyer does not necessarily have to buy right away, they are looking at other alternatives, and renting is one of those. And so we have seen that the rental market has definitely increased. Actually, for this, last month increased about 16%. The average list price in the Houston area is at $23.44. So prices of leases have actually gone up as well, about 2.9% in comparison to the same time last year. And we are seeing more lease properties on the market. They're up about 18% from the same time last year. And so one of the other things is, because there's so much more inventory on the ground as well, we are starting to see rentals to actually stay on the market just a little bit longer as well.
Sure.
And so they're up just a few days, maybe about 9 days or so. But that is, we are starting to see that because we do see so much more inventory on the ground. But it is another alternative for buyers who may want to think about, let me see what's going to happen. Are interest rates going to come down? Maybe they don't need to move right away. It is another alternative. And so we are starting to see a lot more rentals come back on the market.
It could be, hey, I bought in 2021 when the prices were like surging. I've got to move for my job, and I don't want to have to take a hit so I'm going to rent it for a while till something like that could happen, I suppose. I also want to talk to you for a second. It's something I just kind of heard, but I know you're an expert at it. Would be that I guess crooks are everywhere, fraudsters are everywhere. And I think that this realtor associations you're with, the Texas Association of Realtors, and of course HAR are mindful of these kind of things. But how do fraud crooks get involved and into the industry and steal people's money?
Yeah.
What do people need? What do people need to look out for when you got bad folks out there hovering?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's there's bad folks out there in almost every industry and trying to just, find a way to, take money, take people for granted and take their money. And you're seeing it in almost every industry. Unfortunately, cybercrime is a huge issue that a lot of companies are experiencing. Unfortunately, last month in June, I actually was able to be a part of Texas Realtors. Actually puts together a task force that it's called the E&O Task Force, and with that,
E&O.
E&O, which is errors and omissions insurance. So errors and omissions is insurance that every brokerage has to purchase and should purchase to make sure that if they fall victims of whether it's crime or an issue, a lawsuit, whatever it may be, a lot of times their errors and omissions insurance would be able to cover that or help them with the cost of those things. And so
it's smart business.
It's and they have business insurance. There's all kinds of insurance that brokers should make sure that they are taking a part of. And cyber insurance is one that they need to make sure that they have a rider on their errors and omissions insurance policy, because cyber insurance is such a huge issue right now. And so one of the things that we are experiencing throughout is like I mentioned, cyber insurance. And what these criminals are doing is they're coming in and impersonating buyers, sellers, title companies, and even realtors. And so we are looking at it from every aspect and trying to make sure that we're educating our members to understand and to see these type of things that are coming out, the criminals that are doing, and so that they're not having to become a victim. And it's unfortunate because we've had agents, that actually have fall victims to these type of crimes. What they're doing is like I mentioned, they're impersonating in different areas. So very common right now, we see a lot of wire fraud. This happens when a buyer seller, they're communicating on email, and for some way the criminal has come in and has captured their email address, and they're starting to see that a transaction is happening. As they're intercepting their emails, they now know that they're working with X title company and who the buyer is, who the seller is, and when they're going to closing. So what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll impersonate the title company per se, and they will make create an email, send it to your buyer prior to closing, and saying that the wiring instructions have changed. In order for you to close tomorrow or Friday, whatever your upcoming closing, please make sure that you're wiring your funds to this particular wire information, and they'll send them that. The problem with it is that email looks so identical to the title company. A lot of times they will impersonate the agent themselves, or they'll say that it's coming from the agent, and so we had an instance that actually happened. And as an agent, we try to train our agents to, as a broker, we try to train our agents to make sure that we're putting in implementation to explain these type of things to our clients. And we have them sign a wire fraud addendum that basically explains it. And these are what happened. Our agent did all of that. And unfortunately, the client actually reached out to the agent and said, hey, is this a legitimate email? She looked at it on her phone. She's on the go. Agents are always on the go. She looked at it and it looked identical to the title company. So she said, yes, yeah, it's fine. Didn't realize that it was a fraudulent email because they changed one letter on the email that she was not able to really look at or even pay attention to. And so therefore she okayed it. The buyer went ahead and emailed $180,000 to this fraudulent person. And unfortunately, that money was gone.
Did they ever catch him?
The process, they did. And in our case, because it was caught very, very quickly, and it was between the same bank, I believe it was Bank of America. Bank of America was actually able to stop the wire. But unfortunately, because the fraudster was actually claiming that they did owe these funds, Bank of America would not release the funds back to the buyer. They had to get an attorney. It was a long process. I mean, literally took about a year for them to get their money back. And so, and it, it was a really hard, painful lesson that our agent, that agent had to find out, that the client had to go through, that the title company, it was a big mess. And so,
Did the home actually close? They did kill the deal too. Yeah.
and so the thing about it is that, what we're trying to inform our members is to stay vigilant. Unfortunately, there's bad people out there, everywhere. I mean, you can go to the store and you can get robbed. There's just so many things that you always have to stay vigilant. And so actually in September, we have Realtor Safety Month, and we're going to be doing all kinds of training and classes and things for Realtor Safety Month. On Monday, I'm actually going to be speaking on Member Focus Monday about this very topic to all of our members. And so I encourage all of our members to hop on and listen to that. But there's so many things that are happening right now, not only with wire fraud, but seller impersonations. We have, unfortunately, you have a lot of fraudsters that are coming in and impersonating themselves as a seller. We're seeing this a lot on vacant land. So they will find a piece of land where it's been vacant for years, and they will reach out to an agent and say, I want to list this piece of property. Unfortunately, I'm in another country. I don't need to have this property anymore. And they come up with big old lies and that are very good, and they're very good at what they do, and can convince an agent to list a property that's not theirs. And unfortunately, a lot of times they will list it under market value, because they say they need to hurry up and sell this property. We only want cash deals. If you really look at things, there's always a lot of red flags that we're telling our agents to make sure that they're looking for. But unfortunately, sometimes these criminals, this is their profession, and they're very good at it. So we ask all of our agents to make sure that you are always on your toes and making sure that you are verifying, try to get in front of them. Even if they are, in a different country, with today's technology, you can Zoom, you can have, WhatsApp, there's all kinds of, Facebook, there's all kinds of ways that you can actually get in front of a client, and making sure that you're verifying their identification and all of those things. It's sad that we have to get to this point, but unfortunately we do. And it's for their protection. It's for your protection. And if a seller gets upset about it, and they're truly a seller, then we as an agent have to explain it to our clients, to let them know that we're having to do this for their protection. And it's unfortunate that we're here and we're having to do this, but we would rather do this and verify everything than go get closer to the closing table and find out that it's a fraudulent person on the other end. And so the good thing is, and one of the things we always encourage our agents is to always use a title company to be able to close your deals, because title companies are finding a lot of this as they do the title research and things like that, and are requiring documents for closing. A lot of times that's where it's being found, and we're able to.
You're faking like you're the owner of a piece of land you're trying to sell. I can see that. But there is so much now, with the ACH, the transferring it straight out of your account to, well, put down your routing number and bam, and it happens. And there's something to be said for old time. Hey, let's have a cashier's check, but that was so easy, right? People a check, and it's real, it's backed by money, and it's
But even that, we found, where title companies aren't even accepting cashier's checks because they're making fraudulent cashier's checks. It's so bad right now, unfortunately, that the criminals with technology, can create almost anything, and make it look so real. And they're good at what they do. I mean, this is their profession. This is what they do. And so we're always
profession. We ought to put them more into. And I know there are these people that they will, their trade is calling like senior citizens and
Mhm.
Well, you need to, you need to renew your warranty, whatever it is. They make up something, get their credit card number, boom, and they're
Yeah.
gone. And there are a lot of those people that, still on the edge of dementia, or they're getting that way, or just not, uh, they're susceptible for it. And you hate to think about them, getting
It's
ripped off of their retirement money and things like that.
it's super sad. We've seen so many people have gotten affected, and so therefore that's why we want to get the word out as much as we can to our members to make sure that they're looking at these type of things, even the consumer. I mean, because it's happening, and like I mentioned, I got an email yesterday from Amazon. And they were actually telling, it was an email explaining how fraud, that they will never reach out to you and ask for your password, or to reset your password, or ask for private information, and all of these things. And when I read that, I was like, this was an actual email from Amazon, and they're trying to educate their purchasers, their clients, to make sure, because it's obvious that their clients are also being targeted, and people.
And what gets me, okay, so sometimes, your bank, or you have to call your bank or whoever you're dealing, your legitimate company you've dealt with for years, and they say, okay, well, let's go over this, and we're trying to fix it. And so you give them all your information, that we got what's your code word, what's your et cetera, and you go on and on. And and I'll say, well, now who am I dealing with here? You're with Bank of America, and then, yeah, my name is, Susan or something. You go, okay, Susan, what? Well, we can't give out. We're not allowed to give out our last name. You got my total banking information, and you can't give me your last name. Come on, it's irritating. But that's true. It happens. That's like, hey, I want to know who you are before I start giving out the information.
I think the main thing is, just like with anything that you do, is just keep your guard up at all times, no matter what you're doing, whether you're purchasing something online. You're with real estate. It's typically the largest purchase that you're going to make in your lifetime, and so therefore the fraudsters feel like, man, if I can just get one person to get to, that has their guard down, I'll make so much more money off of this one deal than I could, impersonating somebody just trying to steal a credit card or whatever it may be. And so that's why our industry is such a at such a high risk, because, they can really, run off with a lot of money. And so we want to make sure that our members are informed. Like I mentioned, we will be talking a little bit more about it on Monday at our Member Focus Monday, and talking about the different types of frauds that are out there, which, unfortunately, there's just so much. I mean, they're very creative, and so we're always having to stay a step ahead of them, and making sure that our members are informed. So
that's great, and I didn't know. Let us know how it's going with your work on that task force at the Texas Association of Realtors on the fraudulent activity.
one of the things I want to mention about that is, with the report, they only meet once a year. And so what they do is we gather all the information that these E&O carriers come in, and there's several of them. There's probably like 6 or 7 that come in, and they each do a report, and they're finding, because they're all over the nation. And so, they come in, and we actually take that report, and we distribute that in increments to our members. And so last month on the Realtor Magazine, they actually sent out some information that actually talked about it, and they're going to be creating articles and flyers and things like that to be able to inform the realtors of what's happening in the industry, so that they're staying forefront and on their mind. So Texas Realtors is doing a really good job of making sure that we're putting out good material to make sure that realtors are aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of people who are new in Houston, and they don't know that, the Houston Association of Realtors, founded in 1918, and it's also got 50,000 members, not just Houston, city of Houston, but the surrounding area, 50,000 members. one of the biggest in the nation for realty associations, and they've been. But the other big thing is, I mean, that HAR, the Houston Association of Realtors, and their website har.com have been on the forefront of innovation. I remember when I was at the Realtors Association, National Association of Realtors meeting, I believe in 95 or 96, that the big news that everybody was talking about was HAR is going to put listings online. They're going to, it's like the internet and its access to people was kind of new. I was at the Houston Chronicle at that time, and there would be like, oh, Beth Wolf's got a website. That was a story. A real estate company actually launched their website. That was new. And then a little bit went on. Not too long after that, we're saying, oh, the HAR is the first to put listings online. And because at that time, my perception of the industry was they put a lot of weight into what we bring to the table is we have all the information. We have every listing. You're not going to be able to get this anywhere else. But now they're going to put it online, so everybody that has an internet connection can see it. It was innovative. It was radical. I think it was really well. But you had a leader at HAR, Bob Hale, your president, and he's been there for 50 years. He just celebrated his 50th year at HAR. Who had a lot of foresight and was thinking ahead, and has led the industry in a lot of ways. I know he's innovated their Midyear Association, innovate and introduce a lot of new things. And of course, they're really on top of it. Like they're thinking, what do people want? They want to see a lot of pictures. They don't want to just have one little snapshot from the curb. And they have their listing on har.com or anywhere else within the listing may come up. They want to have multiple pictures. And I think I guess pretty good time, I don't know, to break this news. We were talking earlier, just a few minutes ago, about a new feature that Houston Realtors are going to add to their website, to the homes that are listed for sale there. I think it's called Kubicasa.
Yes.
Tell us what Kubicasa is and how that's going to play out.
So HAR is constantly rolling out new tools for our members on a monthly basis. We're constantly pulling out ways to make sure that they stand out and can compete in this industry. Kubicasa just rolled out about a week and a half ago, maybe not even quite 2 weeks ago. We just rolled it out, and basically what it does is it allows the agent to come in and create a floor plan of their listing. And so this is not something new as far as floor plans, but the technology that we're allowing for all of our members to be able to have with Kubicasa is. And so there's currently you can go in and you can purchase equipment to capture a floor plan, but that equipment is very costly. And so,
a floor plan, of course, is kind of like, it's not. It's kind of like you have to think a little bit like an architect. You're looking down at the house, and it shows the way. Hey, this is how big your kitchen will be, and this is the room next to it, and this is the 3 bedrooms, and there's a bath in between it. And here's the front door. It's kind of this shows where the walls are, I guess, might be that for people that, I think now you know what we're talking about. The realtor can do that. They can create those with the app and then put it online. So you have pictures of the house, and then you have a place, this is how, this is where the master bedroom is way down there or something. And it's
right. So what this will allow is for the consumer to be able to actually see, like, if I'm standing here, what's right next to me? Is that the master bedroom or is it the kitchen? a lot of times when you're looking at pictures, they're just pictures and you don't know where they fall in and how the layout of the property really is. With Kubicasa, an agent goes in there and they actually, they go through and they walk through each of the property. They're labeling the property that this is the master, this is the kitchen, this is the foyer, this is, as they're coming through, and it lays out the actual floor plan of the property. And so you can walk through that property and actually see what the property looks like and where you're in the position where you're standing. And so that's really strong. The other thing is that an agent can do this on their phone now. iPhones are so, iPhone, Android, whatever type of phone you have, are so powerful these days. I mean, there's a lot of information. The cameras that they have on these are actually really good now, to where you can actually do this and provide it for your seller very easily. And so this is something, like I mentioned, just rolled out. A lot of our members are going in and jumping right in and taking advantage of this new tool. And we're very excited to see that a lot of our members are. A lot of them are really are still going through some training. We are offering training classes on there. There's webinars that our members can actually go in and listen to or take advantage of, and actually signing up for some of these webinars and take them and learn about the products and the tools and how they can use this to advance their listing and get their home sold quicker.
Well, that's good. I don't know if any of your agents have actually been able to get a floor plan up on their listing yet, but I think that'll happen pretty soon, in the next few weeks. And I'd like to see it. I'd like to see what it looks like.
Yeah, many of our listings do have them already on there.
They do. Okay, great. Other thing we're, of course, Cathy Treviño is, a very experienced realtor, and she works for HAR as a volunteer and puts in all these hours and everything. And two more things about her before we sign off. But and this thing kind of makes me a little bit nervous. But she's a black belt in Taekwondo. So I'm just worried I might ask the wrong question the wrong way, and then karate chop to the Adam's apple. So I'm real careful when I'm dealing with her. Really. And the other thing is, I believe that on your, you're volunteer at HAR, but on your profession where you work for a living, that you are working with a new company now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I recently made a move to a new startup company that's coming to Texas, and it's called LPT Realty. They originated in Florida and are making their way right now through multiple states, and Texas is one of them. So I'm very excited. LPT. It's called Listing Power Tools, is where the initials come from. But
it's what? What's the L stand for? Listing Power Tools. Okay.
And the reason why is because
very industrial sounding,
Exactly. Well, it's because they do believe in providing the listing tools for our agents and really making sure that they're getting the marketing that they need to be able to go out there and get more listings and get more business. And so with Listing Power Tools, what we offer is for all of our agents to have what we call a power pack. And in a power pack, it gives our associates over 168 marketing pieces to go out there and truly market the seller's home in a way that a lot of other companies are not. And so I really believe in what they're doing to empower their agents, and that's one of the reasons why I see what they're doing, and I wanted to be a part of that. We already are up to over 350 agents in Texas, and we just opened up, or they just started here in Texas in December, and so we're definitely growing. And I'm just excited to be a part of that. And I believe we have about 150 of those agents that are HAR members already.
Wow. Oh, man. You guys are blowing and going.
Yes, we are. It's just the beginning. So if you have any additional information or you'd like more information on LPT, you can reach out to lpt.com. And you can actually reach out to me as well at Cathy.Treviño@lpt.com. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Fantastic. Cathy, thanks a lot. Great talking to you, and we still got a ways to go, and pretty soon we'll find out where the future does lie with realty in 2023. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. It's always a pleasure.